soon as I just turned the computer on. Not this morning, though. Morning, Mike. Morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara. It is Wednesday, 5th of November. There we go. Okay, no. So thank you, everybody. Well, so welcome. And first news, sweeping changes in America, right? Because Democrat Zohran Mamdani was victorious in the New York mayoral election, and he's right from the outset is challenging Trump.
Yeah, well, he has been challenging Trump all along. As a matter of fact, Abigail Spanberger won in Virginia, and Mickey Sheriff won in New Jersey.
Yeah,
these were all Democrats. New York City, Democrat win. Virginia, Democrat win, and even what was supposed to be a tight race in New Jersey, Democrat won.
Yeah.
The interesting thing here is they all used the same tactic: fight Trump and focus on the economy, focus on jobs, focus on affordability, focus on those kinds of things. So actually fight Trumpism and fight and bring up affordability and the same things which Trump won on in his election, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Is to bring prices down, try to make things more affordable. Obviously, the average person who may have voted in these elections did not see a whole lot of change in their life since Trump's got in power. The big oligarch tech bros did, but not the average person.
Yeah. And Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London in England, welcomed Zohran Mamdani as the new Mayor of New York.
Yes. Well, of course, everybody's going to say that's a Muslim conspiracy going on now.
Well, yes, but the interesting thing is about this. Did you know the last? I saw on the news yesterday that the last before the election, the last stop that Mamdani made on his election trail was actually he went to a gay nightclub to speak to people there, and that was the last meeting he had before the end of the campaign in a gay nightclub. So we're talking about a Muslim in a gay nightclub, which is very unusual.
Well, among Jews, Muslims, and Christians, but among Jews, homosexuality is an aberrant thing, abomination. That's what they call it. So among Muslims, I believe the same thing. Christians aren't too happy about it either.
No.
But especially you see that the Jewish community long since has sort of become more than just its religion. And it looks like that's what's happening to the Muslim community as well.
Yeah. Well,
I'm pretty sure that a lot of Muslims would not have approve of Zohran Mamdani. I believe that a lot of the imams in Saudi Arabia, the Sunni imams in Saudi Arabia or Egypt, or the Shia imams in Iran would not approve of Zohran Mamdani at all.
Oh, probably not. The interesting thing is about that is he beat out former governor, former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, and he's more than 97% of the votes are counted, and he's got at least 1.3 million more than all the other candidates added together.
Cuomo?
No. I mean Mamdani got more than at least 1.03 million more votes than all of the other candidates combined.
There you have it.
Right.
And so it was a very decisive victory. Remember that Zohran Mamdani won the Democratic pre-election, and Cuomo was so surprised about that he had to then run as an independent.
Yeah.
So the Democrat Party supported Mamdani and was shocked Cuomo because he felt he was a shoo-in for the job, and then he had to run as independent. And what probably didn't help him much was Trump's endorsement.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because as when I looked at it this morning, there were one particular observer claimed that the three races were won by Democrats, and it was sort of against Trumpism, and put out the economy basically as the other factor.
The other factor is California passed Proposition 50, which will redistrict the state in hopes of redistricting the state to give the same sort of give essentially Democrats more than 5 additional seats in the House of Representatives when that's elected next year.
This is a very sad thing because Greg Abbott, the Texas governor, when Trump phoned him and says, "I want 5 more seats," find him. And in between, like normally they adjust the voting districts every 10 years. There's only 5 years. Greg Abbott hopped to it, said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 3 bags full, sir." And started redistricting his state so he can get 5 more districts for Republicans in the midterms. California, which had up until now a better system, it was kind of like a nonpartisan system where it was supposed to be left to independents to make the electoral districts. They went back to the old ways with this resolution so that they can now fashion 5 more Democrat seats to balance off the 5 new ones that came in.
Yeah. California is the biggest state by far, population-wise.
Yes, by far. And basically, but Texas is a major rival. Texas is a lot of its jobs.
Texas is a major rival. But essentially what California is doing here is nullifying Trump's 5 additional House of Representative seats.
Yes. And it may put an end to the gerrymandering that's going on right now. Trump tried this. It looks as if his move was blocked because he gets 5 more in Texas, but he loses 5 in California.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, this is the wrong way to go. The Republican Party gerrymandered 5 more seats for themselves in Texas. But why should they have the right to do that? They should actually have a nonpartisan or some sort of judicial review to overlook this in nonpartisan ways and design the districts according to the way they should be done, not these funny shaped districts that include one over here. Like I saw what was so stupid. So there was a group here and there was a group here, and they had to tie them together in one district. So they put the line on either side of the highway that connected the two. So that was a district, a ball here and a ball here, and a line between them.
Yeah.
And that line was the highway.
That's completely daft. It's not the way we would do electoral districts at all, right? Because basically you'd have a clump, and if another clump of a similar nature was swallowed by a rural district, it would get swallowed. We wouldn't join those areas.
Yeah, but it's happened here too. We had one of our Liberal candidates really kind of lose because of redistricting we had here in the Niagara region. That was what was her name? Sonia, not Sonia. Italian name. She was big in local politics for a while.
Well, this election just gone by, the Conservatives picked up Niagara South, which was unexpected.
Yes, but yeah, it was just unusual. But anyway, so the big news is if you're a Democrat looking to get elected, anti-Trumpism, well, that's going to be something that you're going to do anyway. Another thing that we should notice, though, is today, I believe that the Supreme Court is going to hear oral arguments against the IEEPA methods by which Trump has imposed tariffs. They are likely to find that he has used them excessively, which doesn't mean the tariffs are going to stop. He'll just have to find different ways of doing it. And because these tariffs are the degree of which he's imposing tariffs should be the purview of Congress. But Congress is totally afraid of Trump because the Republicans are, so they don't want to bring it up. But somebody's brought it up and said that this is illegal. He's overusing IEEPA, that provision of tariffs that is supposed to be emergency tariffs. So we'll likely find that I don't know how long it will take them to make a judgment on this, but they will probably come down with you could do it this way and that way, but not this way. You'll probably the Supreme Court will probably say that those emergency power tariffs are illegal against Brazil, Canada, etc., just like the Senate did.
Yeah. Likely, but they're going to hear a lot of there's going to be a lot of verbal argument on that case, so it's going to drag on for at least a couple of months, I think.
We'll see. In the meantime, Trump will continue to use those tariffs, but in the back of everyone's mind who's dealing with him, the other countries will probably delay trade deals or just wait on things because they know that resistance is there for the Trump tariff strategy.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. We can go to our own machinations in our own federal parliament. Nova Scotia MP Chris D'Etremont resigned from the Conservative caucus, walked across the floor to join the Liberals. Well, they won't do him so well in the long run, but it gives the Liberals one extra vote in the House.
Yeah, it's interesting. This guy's been D'Etremont has been a conservative since 2018.
Yeah.
So, and he's also been the shadow. What was it? The deputy speaker or something like that.
Yeah.
He had a role. This may be a trend because this guy saw that he narrowly won his last election, and I think he sees the wave going towards the Liberals. Because actually, right now, the Liberals have a better idea than conservatives. Conservatives have not really sort of been rebirthed. They with what's going on right now, Carney seems to have the ascendancy.
Yeah, and basically that works well because now he's got an extra vote when it comes to the budget vote, which will be coming up fairly soon. But typically in the long run, very rare for actually MPs that move across the aisle to actually get re-elected.
Yes.
And Mike Cushman raises a good point. Should they be able to do this, or should they have to face a by-election?
No, they every MP is supposed to represent your jurisdiction, and if they feel that your jurisdiction would be better served by another party, they could just cross the floor. That's always been the case in a parliamentary democracy.
Well, in fact, it's it's how the PPC got started, because essentially that's what happened to Maxime Bernier, wasn't it? He crossed the floor to his new party.
Well, in any case, in this particular case, this guy sees I think he sees what's going on. He sees that if there's another election, a snap election, or if the budget fails and there is an election, he would lose. So what he's going to do is he's going to nip that in the bud and go over to the Liberals, because he feels that they probably have the momentum. He only won by a very narrow majority in the last election, or very, very minor amount of more votes, like 1.1%.
Okay.
I think that scared him. I think he sees the trend.
533 votes. So he's got one of the smallest majorities in Parliament.
Yeah. So I think he sees the trend. I think he understands there very well might be an election sooner than later, because the government does not have a majority, and sooner or later that won't work. There will be an election. I have a feeling that the Conservatives are going to be very careful going forward, because they won the amount of seats they had when Carney was a new guy in town, but now Carney's got all kinds of cred worldwide and here. Like, you might object to that, you might argue it, you might say that he's just another socialist, etc. I mean, one of the most successful capitalists in Canada, and then people call him a socialist.
Yeah, that always amuses me, because but the reason, of course, is that don't you know, Dave, if you've even got a liberal thought in your mind, you're a damn socialist.
Yeah.
If you've got one liberal thought in your mind, you're a damn socialist. That's the thing. And the trouble is, a lot of people misuse that term, right? But again,
look what's happening to it. Look what's happening down in the States. They don't know the difference between a socialist, a communist, a Democrat, a social democrat. They don't know the difference. I mean, they're raging about Mamdani being a communist. Cuomo even used that, and he knows better. He knows that's a lie. But they use the ignorance of the American people, the American voter. And they said, oh, well, New York City's going to turn into Venezuela. They do that all the time.
I know.
When the Republicans are like, seriously, Venezuela is a left-wing dictator, kind of like Stalin. Nothing at all what a social democrat is. But social, as soon as you put social, and all of a sudden it's socialism, which means communism, you could see how the demonstration was the 7 million anti-Trump demonstration was characterized as Hamas supporters, Antifa, communists.
But come on, Dave. You know it yourself. You were a union man, therefore you're a communist.
Oh, damn right. I'm a commie.
Right.
Actually, it's not there now. In my union, it's not there now. But when you have to swear in, when you first are accepted, you have to make a pledge or do an oath. I don't think they do that anymore. And in that oath, I had to, and the oath is a very old one, and I had to make an oath that I had no Bolshevik affiliation. Tell you how old it is. I mean,
yeah.
When the business agent swore me in, he says, well, just kind of ignore this. We have to change it. But yeah, so I had to make a part of the oath. I had to swear that I had no Bolshevik associations.
So the one communist out of your union members who voted for you was disappointed because you swore that.
The whole thing with unionism in North America, which was much stronger back in 1950 than it is now, there was always this idea that it was communist affiliated, because a lot of the early communists were tied in with the early unionists, but they realized that scared the average person a lot. So they had to make it very clear that the unions, trade unions, were not affiliated with Bolsheviks or other communists.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't stop the Communist Party of Canada supporting trade unionism.
No, it doesn't. I haven't in all my years as in the union or any union, but I was with that one for 25 years. So, well, I still am a union member. Actually, just a retired union member. I still pay my dues and all. The very idea that that I don't know what to say about it actually, but we are not communist, obviously. We want to make money.
Well, and, the point being
the very idea that but they don't understand. See, especially in the United States, but here too, especially in the United States, they can't get away with it in Canada. Like if Polyev started calling the Liberals Hamas supporters and Antifa supporters and communists, he'd get laughed right out of Parliament. They could do it in the States, though, because the ignorance level is much higher there. And they don't care about being scoffed at by anybody that's got a half of an education. They are happily exploiting the ignorance of their MAGA base.
Yeah.
That gets them in trouble a little later on, mind you, but it's very expeditious. There's communists and Antifas over there and among the Democrats. So, the world is coming to an end if you vote them in.
The other thing about this particular individual, he was not very happy about the campaign. He expressed a lot of regret about the campaign that Polyev ran in Atlantic Canada. And that's, I think, a lot of what is pushing him across the aisle.
Yes. So we find that that's part of it. I believe he probably was resentful for Polyev for not making an appearance early in his campaign, and somehow he feels that's part of the reason why he may have got less votes than he should have got. But on the other hand, I think that it's a lot more political survival here. He likes being an MP, and he sees the winds of change.
Yeah,
and he thinks that getting on board with the Liberals at this particular moment is a better idea. This leaves the Liberals with one less other MP they have to persuade outside of their party now to support the budget.
Yeah.
So
we'll be talking about the budget in a little while.
Yeah. So I think what was it? How many votes did the Liberals need outside of their own party?
They need two right now, I believe. Two
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll probably get that easily. I think the NDP will cave. At least two of them will to make it a go, because whether or not the other parties are doing what they're hoping to do, but believe me, the Conservatives and the Bloc have got their fingers crossed, hoping that some of the NDP will vote for it, because they sure do not want to have an election now. Yeah. Maybe
the other question about
maybe a year from now, but not now.
Yeah. The other question about this is that with the NDP MPs being kind of isolated in Parliament, I wonder how many of them will actually be looking at crossing the aisle as well.
It's curious. I don't think they will, but it depends on their own constituency. If they have a very strong NDP constituency, you don't see them crossing the floor. No. This was different. This conservative could see the winds of change happening, and whether that's going to work for him in the next election, I don't know. But he obviously was afraid of losing the nice, cushy job as an MP.
I think it will not work for him in the next election. You know,
I think it will. Actually, I think it will.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see. We'll see. All right. An interesting story from a couple of days ago. This dusty duffel bag found in Italy revived the story of this Cape Bretoner who was killed in World War II because it was his duffel bag, and it was found in in Italy.
Yeah, there's a Canadian soldier that died in action in Italy. Crossing a bridge. I guess they got blown up by mines crossing the bridge. But he had a storied service record up to that point. And somebody, and of course, they had to be buried somewhere in Italy. Remember, the Canadians have fought some pretty tough battles there in Italy. I think one of the toughest towns ever to fall to the Canadians.
I think the whole Italian, the fighting in Italy was some of the harshest there was in the whole of the Second World War.
Yeah, it was a bad idea by Churchill, who said the soft underbelly.
Yeah,
what he wanted to do is avoid at all costs any consideration of it. Like he really had doubts about the D-Day thing, and he knew that they could get to Italy easy, but Italy is a mountainous terrain, hard to fight in. The Nazis put up a pretty tough battle there. There was one city in I forget the name of it, in eastern Italy. It cost the Canadians a lot of lives. It was one of the most well-defended cities in Italy. In any case, this young lad lost his life over there. His duffel bag, of course, somehow ended up in a shed somewhere in Italy, and it was repatriated. It's going to be repatriated to his family now, and that's a reminder. And it comes at a good time. It comes close to Remembrance Day.
Yeah. Well, and that is interesting how they come across these sort of things, and they're coming across artifacts like this all the time.
Well, I tell you, I was I flew across the Atlantic with beside a few times beside old British soldiers and airmen and naval guys, and the one guy I was with, he had been at Tobruk with the British Army when Rommel defeated the British Army at Tobruk. He was taken captive, and he was taken captive and taken to Italy because Libya was supposed to be Italian territory. So the prisoners of war went to Italy. Well, he managed to escape the prisoner camp and lived for a very long time, a few months, with a farmer, which put that farmer at extreme risk. But the farmer hid him in Italy, and eventually he was able to make his way back to the. I think the resistance helped him get back to the British side of things, so he was able to escape. But in the meantime, he was kept alive by an Italian farmer.
Well, in fact, actually, there's many stories about resistance movements, both across Germany and the whole Germany, Italy, and other places that Mussolini and Hitler controlled, because a lot of airmen that were shot down managed to get out and were not always captured.
Yeah. So anyway, and this lad we're talking about now, he died in his service. He had a long campaign. He had fought, I think, in Sicily and up in Italy. So he had quite a service record. Finally, however, his end came in Italy, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice that someone found his old duffel bag and we were able to repatriate it. That's a poignant sort of message to us all here that 85, 90 years later, you can still get a relic of the war and very, very clearly point out that a young person died over there.
The interesting thing is about this is that it's got Heck McDonald penned on the duffel bag. So it's like he was scratching by pen mark his name on the duffel bag that he was carrying across the country, carrying through the campaign, right? Very interesting. And I'm sure it gives a lot of insights into what happened in the Italian campaign.
So I know it's just a very interesting story, and how the Italian historian who came across it was a guy that studies the Canadian campaign or other war area in and around the area in which he lives, and of course that's an area which the Canadian Army did its thing. So of course he's going to come across a lot of Canadian stories and all that kind of thing. So he's an appreciative historian about what happened there. So that's kind of neat, really, that an Italian local historian, local history buff is able to do that for us. And particularly very close to Remembrance Day, which is very poignant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely interesting. Very interesting. And, it's like, I don't know, just, it's good that it's been done, and different times, of course.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. There was a shooting at Niagara Gateway in Grimsby last Thursday.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Basically, just Niagara Gateway Services are a service station off the highway, often close to the entrance to the highway. A European style service station, and basically somebody was shot there and ended up was sent to a Hamilton hospital, and the police were called in there 5:15 on Friday. So so the whole point is here that we're getting more and more dangerous as a society, and I think that's the reason why I put this up here.
Yeah, we've had way too many incidents of gun violence. The guns, of course, are coming from the States.
Yeah.
Almost all of them illegal guns coming from the States, because I think there's 2 million illegal guns, at least they a minimum 2 million guns they can account for in the United States. And of course that means there's a very vigorous, very, very vigorous trade in illegal guns. And of course, a lot of them are coming across into Ontario. Whereas the U.S. claims that a lot of fentanyl is going to the States. Well, what we get from them, if we're not getting fentanyl, we're getting cocaine and we're getting guns.
Yeah.
Maybe some methamphetamine. So, but guns is what I fear the most, because there are more and more of them, and it was a very rare thing to have gunplay in Niagara. It keeps popping up here and there again, That is a trend that I don't like. I mean, I know our population is growing and all that, and we can expect, with bigger populations,
with bigger populations, you do end up with more crime. That's for sure. But most of the Niagara population is in, not in huge population towns. We with in Niagara Falls and St. Catharines are the two largest population centers, and they're not really heavy population when you compare them to Toronto and other places.
Well, Toronto is having a real problem with its gangs, and they are well armed.
Yeah,
and that's a problem. They're well armed, and that's like earlier on when Trudeau made sweeping gun restrictions and all that. The biggest complaint about the $646 million he was going to use to buy back guns from collectors and that was that they weren't the problem. The guns, you may have an opinion about whether or not people should own guns like that. But the big problem was the amount of guns that was coming in from the States, particularly handguns. It's easy to smuggle a handgun. I could do it. When they many years ago, well, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, when there was a shooting right there across the street and down a bit from the Queen's Hotel, when there was arguments and threats made by one of the residents to another, the one young guy walked across into the States, bought a gun, and came back and shot that guy. That's how easy they are to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if he walked, therefore, all he's got is like a coat or something to hide that gun in.
Yeah, he walked over, bought the gun, and came back.
Yeah, so
I didn't know how many times he went over there to sort of prepare to buy it or put out feelers of where he could buy it and who he could buy it from, but
yeah. Well, yeah,
exactly. 2 million. Yeah, 2 million, I think, illegal guns floating around in the States right now, which would make that incredible amount of guns could come in.
Not to say anywhere near that, not to say anywhere near 2 million are headed towards Canada, but all you need is just one more illegal gun, and we've got incidents like this becoming all too frequent in Canada.
Say 1,000 of them. Say 1,000 of them come into Ontario. That's 1,000 hoods with guns.
Yeah, exactly. And it's 1,000 increases the chances that you could get shot 1,000-fold.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest problems we have is increased gun violence and the availability of it. When we talk about increased drug use, well, we have an increased drug availability. That's our biggest issue when we talk about, fighting off fentanyl or cocaine or whatever else. The biggest issue is the enormous appetite we have, but we also have an appetite for guns, handguns, certain people. And that what you find in the States is so many people buying handguns because they feel they need to protect their own residents. And what you find is a lot of accidents, a lot of accidental shootings. And I don't know, that just exacerbates gun violence. And we don't want to be in a situation where we have to feel that we have to buy a handgun, protect ourselves. I'll give you a story. Like in a mostly seniors condo in Florida that I visited several times, there was an old lady who was in her late 70s, early 80s, and someone convinced her that she should get a handgun.
And she's there with a shaky hand and a handgun in the hallway, right?
Yeah, she bought 232 pistols, and she could hardly lift them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, if anybody broke into her place, the first thing they would do is take the guns off of her.
Yeah. And she'd probably shoot herself anyway.
And if they're going to break into her place, they would have been done when she wasn't there or sleeping, and they would have got the guns anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of it's dumb.
Well, the question about this is you said earlier on about you wouldn't know about where to get a legal gun. I've passed many gun stores in my travels locally in the US. I'd know where to buy a legal gun. I wouldn't even know how to go about buying an illegal firearm if I were in the market for such, and I'm not.
You can get them and just have to pay a lot for them.
Yeah, but it's just I wouldn't even know where to begin as a Canadian. I wouldn't even know how to start that conversation. And probably if I were to approach somebody at random in the street, they'd go, "Cop," right away, wouldn't they, or something,
Well, if it gets any worse in the States, there's going to be a guy in the corner yelling, "Guns, guns, get your guns here. Here, come, get your guns. Illegal guns here."
Yeah.
In Florida, it's deadly. Every pawn shop is loaded with guns. That's the first thing. Every pawn shop's got guns, revolvers, all that in their display cases, and they advertise guns, so people buy them and then they have to pawn them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But you can buy them. There was a time that you could buy them in. They used to have these big tent kind of facilities where you could buy them right then and there quickly. I think they've stopped doing that. But they're talking about open carry in Florida. I think they've already got it. But when I was in Florida, I saw a guy who was exercising open carry. And I suppose he had a license for it, but he had a double holster, one on each hip, and he had looked like Glocks to me, and he was walking around the store like that.
Yeah, and Rick suggests new viewer Rick suggests ask the police officer. Yeah.
No, it wasn't a cop. It was
no. Just about my question about where you're going to get a gun from.
Yeah.
Hey, man, where will I get a gun from? Yeah, let's take you to the prison.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just guns are just the faster we get them off the street, the better. But we have to have laws to do that, and this is where I agree with the conservative points of view here. They're criminals. Get them off the street. If they've got a gun,
lock them up.
Put the mandatory sentence back on anyone who has an illegal gun.
Yeah.
If they use it in the in crime or even have it, you have to have some stern rules. Otherwise, if you think, well, I'm not, if I get caught with an illegal handgun, I'm going to get slapped on the wrist. So what's the difference? But if you know you're going to go into jail for 2 years for having an illegal handgun, that makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Budget 2025 projected deficit is $78.3 billion, which actually, when you consider the way that the budget was over the last few years, I was surprised that it's as low as that.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Like the Liberal government got a lot of heat for having a $62 billion budget under JT when it ballooned to $62 billion. But that budget was directed to different things. Now we see the commonality of the United States and Canada here. We think we're a whole lot different, but Donald Trump increased the debt in the United States, saying that by doing that, it will stimulate the economy. And so he's increased the debt enormously, $2 trillion or so many $1 trillion. Rand Paul could tell you the numbers. Thomas Massey could tell you the numbers. Increasing the debt hugely in an effort to stimulate the economy and a new economy. I mean, that's happening here right now. Canadians are normally very leery about the kind of debt that they put on. But I think they'll accept this, which is much more than the Trudeau government did, because of where the money's being directed.
Yeah.
Under the Trudeau government, we had inflated government. In here in the budget, part of the budget process is to trim down and make more streamlined the government, which Trudeau inflated and made inefficient.
Yeah.
So that's part of it.
Yeah, and part of this is also that Francois Philippe Champagne's budget is going to be looking at pro-business measures meant to increase productivity, inject a certainty in time where it's in short supply globally. So they're trying to get business moving again.
Yeah, a lot of these are capital investments to stimulate growth and stimulate government. They claim that, of course, the deficit then will fall to about 50 billion the year after that, and so go on a steady decline. But we hear that all the time, and it's always a lie. So what we are looking at is a government that's getting more and more in debt. The efforts of Chrétien and Paul Martin in Canada and those of Clinton in the U.S. that stifled inflation and brought down the cost of government, that's long gone by the wayside. We are stuck in a continuous cycle of reinvesting in Canada. You can only go so far. Now, these better come up with some results, or we're in a big problem. We'll have to face massive cutbacks if this doesn't work in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's directed investment into things like pipelines, roads, housing, directives for training, all that kind of thing, hoping to stimulate the economy. Now you got a guy, extremely successful capitalist, Mark Carney. So he's extremely successful capitalist, a wealthy man. He's run the Bank of England and he's run the Bank of Canada. I think anyone else proposing this kind of a budget with such a huge price tag would be laughed out of Parliament. But because he's Mark Carney and he's got the cred as being an extraordinary successful capitalist, banker, etc., I think he's going to get away with it.
And they're also talking about because of the change in what they're doing with the budget. You mentioned this just now. The deficit is projected to be 65 billion in 26-27, so in a year's time, and fall 3 years after that to about 56 billion in 29-30. Now, when you put in capital budgets, there's always an element of debt anyway, because capital budgets require a debt when you're certainly funding capital projects.
There will always be a certain amount of debt because you need capital. But you can't. But if you go back to 1968, well, Lester B. Pearson paid off the war debt rather quickly. Him and Diefenbaker before him, and they got it down, and they handed Pierre Trudeau a balance where the country was in no deficit at all, and the amount of borrowing it did was about 10%, so easily paid off. Where right now we are very similar to the United States. We have enormous debts and interest to pay, and what we're doing here is asking for more of that. We're not in trouble yet, but we're heading for it. If this doesn't work and stimulate the government, then we can expect cutbacks coming in the next decade or so, which may reduce
the other question about this one, of course, is that we're trusting it because we're looking at a prime minister who's an economist, who's actually been through and understands the whole question of debt. And you say if this was coming from Justin Trudeau, we'd be pulling our hair out by now.
Oh, this kind of budget would not come from Justin Trudeau because he would not know how to do this. I mean, I think part of the reason why Chrystia Freeland got so upset with Trudeau is because he didn't understand the economy, and I think she got frustrated with it. She got pushed aside in his desperate moves to change things. He didn't have he always appeared to have be very clueless, and he was the one that inflated government to the point where there was 40% more people than there should be. When you think of those kind of things, when you're trying to stimulate the country by expanding government jobs, it just doesn't work. So no, I think Kearney is a much more savvy business person, but he also knows people. He also knows people's angst about climate change. He also knows people's angst about debt servicing and all that. So any kind of angst anyone has, he seems to be able to at least find a compromise somewhere in there. I don't think PP could have done this right now. I have a feeling that the average Canadian thinks that a career politician like PP would not be able to come up with solutions for what we are going through at present.
Yeah,
that's my idea. I think that if we had an election tomorrow, the Liberals would win it in a big way.
You think? I think there will be closer between the Liberals and the Conservatives. I'm not so sure we'll get. I think we'll get a few rearranged NDP seats is what we'll end up if we held an election.
If we had a major election, I think the Liberals would get a majority. And well, I think that's one of the reasons why the Bloc and the Conservatives are crossing their fingers, hoping that the NDP will support the budget, so they can complain about it later, about a year from now, when they're more prepared for an election.
Yeah, that's a possibility. I'd agree with you there. Yeah, but and I think
now if a couple more people cross the floor, like you suggested. Maybe a couple NDPs cross the floor and go to the Liberals or another Conservative or two. Then they would have the majority, and then they wouldn't have to call the election.
Yeah, and I'm not in the least bit sure that any NDP would cross the floor. I'm just saying that there's the NDP's in a dire situation right now, and there doesn't seem to be anybody doing anything about that.
No, they didn't have enough money for the last election. They've been struggling. Jagmeet Singh was a pretty decent guy, but he didn't give a whole lot of confidence when he supported the Liberals to the nth degree. They did get some things, like childcare and things of that kind that pushed the Liberals into that, but did not separate themselves well enough from the Liberals.
Yeah,
if they had done that back in before the election, they probably would have had the independence they needed.
It made the dental plan and the childcare plan look like Liberal plans all along.
Yeah, most of us know they were NDP inspired plans, but the fact of the matter that the NDP did not use its advantage there and sucked up to the Liberals too long. They were frightened. They should have stood up and said, "Okay, we're not gonna back you up. We're gonna have an election." If they did it back a few months earlier, like about half a year earlier, if they had done it, and then the country was forced into election, Trudeau would be still. Would have been the party leader of the Liberals, and they would have lost a huge amount. And as ostensibly a lot of that would have gone to the NDP. But one, they had the party review, and JT was kicked out, and Carney was put in. It changed everything completely, which put the NDP in a place where there's no way they're going to gain any Liberal seats.
Yeah.
They could have gained them when JT was there because JT was so unpopular.
Yeah.
But so they really screwed themselves up there.
Absolutely. All right. Okay. So, and I do think that you'll have a couple of NDP people who will cross the floor and support the Liberals.
Well, I don't know if they'll walk across the floor to join the Liberals, but I think they will
join them, to support them. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise,
yeah.
Otherwise, if there is an election called, those NDP seats are the ones that are going to be most vulnerable to be changed.
NDP seats are very vulnerable right now. There's no, any NDP MP is frightened of their political future.
Well, certainly. And it's happened to the other parties. Remember, the Conservatives were wasted down to a handful of seats. The Liberals, too, they were down to...
When you think about cities like Hamilton, it almost seems like in some respects it's an NDP versus Conservative fight, not an NDP versus Liberal fight.
Well, that was out west, too.
Yeah.
They almost do not consider the Liberals in that fight. The farmers are like either NDP, Tommy Douglas type NDP, or Conservatives. And it makes perfect sense because the farmers and the Western mindset is very independent. So, of course, the idea of Conservatives is very appealing to them. But when their neighbors get into trouble, their combine breaks down, all the other farmers go over and help them out and do their harvest for them because it's expected that that's what they're going to do. Right. So they do support each other in emergencies. So that's the NDP part of them coming out.
Yeah. And that's exactly how farmers are, because you don't want to see another farm. Yeah, you want to defeat your rival, but you don't want to see him go down because his combine broke.
No, yeah, and you got your own, so, and it's expected that if your combine broke, the others would come and help you. Exactly. That's just the way it is. Yeah. That's just how it happens. Like guy's barn burns down. Well, the other farmers get together and help you put up another one.
Yep, exactly.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of collective idea they have, which you would look to that to say, well, that's kind of an NDP thing. But the rigid independence of each different farmer, independent, tough, I'll do it my way kind of idea. Don't bug me. That's more like a conservative kind of ideas. So you see why they're split and why the Liberals can't seem to fit in between.
Yeah. All right. We've kind of run out of time for today. And Rick basically saying capital increase investments and reduces operation costs, jobs must go. Well, they already talk about these. You said 40,000 federal bureaucrat jobs to go, and
not 40,000. I said there was 40%. There was 40% that the Trudeau government inflated the government 40% more than it had to.
Yeah, and those jobs I can see. Well, I don't know how they will go, but some of them will have to go.
Well, yeah, it's mentioned in the budget basically. Yeah. They're already offering retirement deals, walkaway deals, that kind of thing. So they're going to just say, okay, we're going to buy you out.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's son works with the government, and he says it's just completely loaded with know-nothing people, and he doesn't even know where they come from or why they even got their job. So he had a specialty that he was trained in, and he was hired, but he just, and he can't say nothing. He can't say nothing about it. You just have to kind of work around these people. But why they're there, like his questioning was when he first got in there, he says, why are these people here? They don't know anything. Yeah. Yet they're supposed to be our boss or whatever else. They just don't know anything.
Yeah.
And they haven't got a clue. And he's just told, like, just kind of work around them. It's politics.
Yeah. And that doesn't help anybody, though, does it?
No, it doesn't.
All right. Well, yeah, I think we've come to the end of where we are today. We've got some stuff to pick up tomorrow, including further. Well, and I suppose the possibility of an international peace force in Gaza.
Well, yeah, I really like to see that. It's going to be resisted hugely by Netanyahu and his goons, and they have a lot of power in the United States, of course, through APEC.
Yeah,
And but APEC is becoming under scrutiny in a big way. However, remember what I said when I said when the average person starts to be educated about APEC, it seems that almost no news agency is willing to even hardly mention APEC. There might be a backlash of anti-Semitism. Well, I heard that Tucker Carlson interviewed a guy by the name of Nick Fuentes, who happens to be a kind of an extremist right winger, and they bring in a lot of anti-Semitism with them, and the problem here is that MAGA seems to be going towards that, and we found that the young Republicans, whatever, and they had that social media thing where they talked about how they loved Nazis and Hitler and hated Jews, that kind of thing. That seems to be growing in the MAGAverse. So it's very, very troubling that Tucker Carlson interviewed this guy. But if it was a hardball interview, I would have no problem with it. But the interview seemed to be a softball interview. So I'm very, very, very afraid of a rise in anti-Semitism, real rise in anti-Semitism, because people will misjudge what the average Jewish person and conflate them with AIPAC and Netanyahu and Gaza and all that other stuff. So yeah. I think it's something we have to watch carefully.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
And talking about Gaza, I'll tell you it again, that Gaza thing has to happen. There has to be a peace thing. It's going to be resisted to the very last. The way the Jewish settlements in the West Bank are placed, it makes it almost impossible for a country, independent country, to arise. And I've said it before. What they want to do is slowly make it impossible for Palestinians to live there, to aspire there, in hopes to push them out. You see that in Gaza, they didn't go anywhere. And in the West Bank, they're probably not going to try to go anywhere.
Yep.
It's going to be a push for greater Israel the whole time. As long as Netanyahu is at the helm, we're in trouble. I don't know what's next for Israel, but they are very right-wing right now and very prejudicial. So we'll see. Even I'm reading that even the Palestinians that live in Israel, like David Ben Gurion, he had a solution that 80% of the country had to be Jewish and 20% of it could be Palestinian. Well, there's a movement to get rid of those 20% Palestinians that have been living there since 1948. So it's getting very unusual. Anyway, dangerous, and
we can
I hope Netanyahu, I don't know, a lightning bolt hits him or something. I don't know, whatever.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't wish death upon him or anything, but I want him out of office because he's he owns the states. Like, he knows how to manipulate. He's like Putin. He's an extremely good politician. He's manipulated. Look, he's manipulated. The only one he had trouble with was Obama, but he manipulated Bush. He manipulated Trump. He manipulated Biden. Now he's manipulating Trump again. Like Putin. Putin manipulates Trump and plays the political card well. So Trump is no match for a guy like Netanyahu. He just isn't. And if Netanyahu was out of the picture, it'd be better for us. I mean, if he gets voted out, or if he gets put in jail because of corruption, it'd be just perfect for us. But anyway, let's hope that peace follows this. And without further ado, I bid you adieu.
Thank you.